All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not just looking at some old book. We're unpacking a philosophy, really a powerful way of thinking that has, no joke, changed the lives of millions. Napoleon Hill didn't write this for a little light reading. He meant for it to be a user's manual for success. So let's treat it like one and see what we can pull from it.
But before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Just think about this for a second. What if, right now, after all the hard work, all the struggle, what if you were just 3 feet from gold? That question, it's really at the heart of everything we're about to cover. And it all kicks off with a story. A true story, actually, that Napoleon Hill uses to drive home one of his biggest points: persistence. This is the story of a guy named R.U. Darby. So picture this. It's the middle of the gold rush. Everybody's got gold fever, and Darby heads out west to make his fortune. And you know what? He actually does it. After weeks of backbreaking work, he strikes a rich vein of ore. He's hit the jackpot. So he covers up the mine, goes home to tell his family and raise money for machinery, and comes back ready to pull millions out of the ground. The first haul of ore confirms it. This is one of the richest finds in Colorado. They're on top of the world. And then, poof, it's gone. The vein of gold just disappears. They've hit a dead end. They keep drilling, trying to find it again, but nothing. And so eventually they just do what so many of us do. They quit. They're totally crushed. They sell all of their expensive equipment to a local junk man for just a couple $100, and they get on a train and go home. As far as they're concerned, the dream is dead. The story's over. But it wasn't over for the junk man. He was smart. He took that equipment and he did the one thing Darby didn't think to do. He got some expert advice. He hired a mining engineer who took a look and realized the Darbys didn't know about something called fault lines. The engineer's calculations showed the gold vein wasn't gone. It was just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped drilling. 3 feet! The junk man started digging, and sure enough, there it was. He ended up making millions from that mine. That story, right there, is the perfect setup for the book's biggest secret. See, for Darby, that failure became the most important lesson of his life. He later became an incredibly successful insurance salesman because he refused to quit when he heard no. He finally understood that real riches aren't dug out of the ground. They're created in your mind. You know, Hill points out something fascinating about how success actually works. He says it's not this slow, steady trickle. It's the opposite. When you finally get your mind right, success doesn't just show up. It's like a floodgate opens. It comes so fast and in such huge amounts that you're left wondering where it was hiding all those years you were struggling. So what's the real starting line here? We're always told it's hard work, but Hill says, nope, that's not it. Hard work is part of it, for sure, but it's not step one. The actual starting point of any great achievement is a burning desire. Not a wish, not a hope, an all-consuming, white-hot obsession. And you take all that raw energy, that desire, and you focus it with what he calls definition of purpose. This isn't just, oh, I'd like to be rich. It's knowing exactly what you want, down to the last detail, and having that unstoppable desire to make it happen. That crystal clear focus, that's what separates the people who achieve their dreams from those who just keep dreaming. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Well, Hill doesn't leave you hanging. He gives you a very specific, step-by-step action plan to turn that desire into actual, cold, hard cash. Let's break down the method. He calls it his method for transmuting desire, which is just a fancy word for transforming it from an idea in your head into its physical, financial equal. It's a 6-step formula, and the whole point is to program your subconscious mind so it's working on your goal around the clock, even when you're not thinking about it. So here are the 6 steps. 1. You have to be specific. Pick an exact dollar amount, not a lot of money, an exact number. 2. Get real about what you're willing to give in return. There's no such thing as something for nothing. 3. Set a deadline, a definite date. 4. Create a clear plan to get there, and, this is crucial, start immediately, right now, not tomorrow. 5. Write all of this down in a clear, concise statement. And 6. Read that statement out loud twice a day, once when you wake up and once before you go to bed. The goal is to see and feel yourself already having that money long before it ever shows up in your bank account. Now, look, if it was that simple, we'd all be millionaires, right? But there's a huge obstacle that stands in the way for almost everyone. An enemy that's not out there somewhere, but right inside your own head. And that enemy is fear. Hill is crystal clear on this. Fear is the ultimate dream killer. It shuts down your creativity, it destroys your confidence, and it makes you hesitate when you need to act. It's just a state of mind, but it's powerful enough to stop you dead in your tracks. You have to master it. He breaks it down into 6 basic types. The fear of being poor, the fear of what other people will think of you, the fear of getting sick, the fear of losing someone you love, the fear of getting old, and the big one, the fear of death. He says pretty much every single person is held back by at least one of these. So what does fear look like day to day? Well, its symptoms are things like indecision, constant doubt, worry, and of course, procrastination. But here's the good news. For every symptom of fear, there's a tool for persistence. Instead of indecision, you have definiteness of purpose. Instead of doubt, self-reliance. Instead of worry, willpower. And instead of procrastination, you have a definite plan. It really is a choice of which tools you're going to use. And all of this brings us to the final and honestly the most powerful idea in the entire book. It's the one concept that ties everything else together, from Darby's gold mine to that internal battle with fear. Hill loves to quote these famous lines from the poem Invictus. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. It sounds amazing, right? But Hill argues that the poem left out the most important part. How? How are you the master of your fate? What's the secret? Well, here's Hill's answer. It's incredibly simple and incredibly profound. You are the master of your fate for one reason, because you and you alone have the power to control your thoughts. That's it. That's the whole game. Your thoughts create your world, and that's the one thing in the entire universe you have absolute control over. So after all of this, all 13 principles, all the stories, it really boils down to one final question, a question for you. If you have the power to control your thoughts, and your thoughts build your reality, what kind of reality are you going to choose to build?